I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but T-Rexes used to be total losers. I know we picture them as these biological tanks that eat jeeps and fight King Kong, but for the first 100 million years of their existence, the T-Rex family were not the kings. They were actually the weird, anxious little runts that got shoved into lockers by the actual cool dinosaurs. So grab a seat and a beverage, my friend, because we're going way back to the age of the dinosaurs. So the year is 230 million years ago, and Pangaea is one big, hot, dry supercontinent. At this point in time, dinosaurs are kind of God's new bizarre concoction, and nobody really takes them seriously. The world at this time is actually run by something called Rauisuskians. So just imagine a crocodile, right? Now beef it up a bit and give it long, thick, straight legs so it can run like a Doberman, and there you have a Rauisuskian. These things were terrifying, and they were actually the apex predators of this time. And living in their shadows was the T-Rex's great-great-great-great-grandfather. Meet the ancestors. Things like the Eoraptor. They didn't look like monsters, they looked like a chicken and a lizard got a little freaky. And they were small, maybe the size of a dog. They were light, they were fast, and they were anxious little guys. And you wouldn't blame them, because they kind of had to be. If you were a dinosaur in the Triassic period, your entire strategy was to not be noticed. They ate bugs, small lizards, maybe a carcass if the big dogs weren't looking. They were scavengers, opportunists, the bottom of the totem pole. If you traveled back in time and bet money on who would rule the world, you would put your entire life savings on the land crocs. And then the universe decided to go buck wild as it usually does, and around 201 million years ago, Pangaea started to rip apart. This caused the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province to erupt. And now when I say erupt, I don't mean a cute little science fair volcano. I mean the Earth vomiting lava for 600,000 years. This triggered the Triassic-Jurassic extinction. The atmosphere filled with greenhouse gases, the oceans acidified, and the temperature swung wildly. The big, heavy, resource-hungry land crocs, dead. They just couldn't adapt. But our little rat chicken ancestors, they were just small, and they didn't need much food. So while the apex predators were choking on ash and dying a horrible death, the early dinosaur ancestors were just shivering in a hole eating beetles. And when the dust finally settled, the land crocs were gone. The planet was ripe for the taking, and the dinosaurs stepped out into the Jurassic period and said, "I claim this land." So welcome to the Jurassic. This is the golden age. Brachiosaurus is acting like a skyscraper. Stegosaurus is doing whatever Stegosaurus do. And I hear your wheels a spinning. You're probably thinking, man, this is sweet. This is when Tyrannosaurs finally get cool. However, at this time, they are still more like middle management of the food chain, working their way up the ladder. Meet Guanlong. This is an early tyrannosaur. It lived in China and was about 10 feet long, which sounds big, but in Jurassic that's still small as hell. The most notable thing about Guanlong is that it had a massive fragile hollow crest on its head. It looked like it glued a dinner plate to its face. Scientists think it was for display, to attract mates, because nothing says sexual prowess like a ceramic plate on your forehead. But here's the important part. They were still the underdogs. Allosaurus were the new apex predators. They were big, they had 3 functional claws, and they hunted nearly everything. The tyrannosaurs, like Guanlong, were forced to stay in the shadows. They had to be faster, smarter, and scrappier. While the Allosaurus was relying on brute strength, the tyrannosaurs were leveling up their skills in the background. They developed better senses, their brains got bigger relative to their body size. They developed stereoscopic vision, eyes facing forward. See, Allosaurus had eyes closer to the side of his head. They weren't blind or anything, they did have some binocular vision, but compared to later tyrannosaurs, it was way more limited. The tyrannosaurs were developing sniper vision, but they were still stuck at the kids' table until nature decided to shake things up again. So this takes us into the Cretaceous. The climate changes, the Allosaurs start to decline. We aren't 100% sure why, maybe climate, maybe new competition, but the old guard starts to fade away. And this is where Tyrannosaurs decide to stop playing nice. This is the incredible come-up phase for the Tyrannosaurs. So we start seeing animals like the Moros intrepidus in North America, still small but fast and deadly, and then we get the Dilong and the Eotyrannus. And here's where the most controversial evolutionary decision happens. The arms. People love to make fun of the T-Rex's little noodle arms. But listen, the T-Rex did not lose its arms because it was lazy. It traded them out. It was a calculated purchase in the RPG store of evolution. Just think of a dinosaur for a second like a seesaw. On one side, you have the tail, the counterweight, and on the other side, you have the front of the body. The Tyrannosaurus decided they wanted a massive-ass head, and they wanted jaw muscles that could generate enough pressure to explode a femur. But physics is a cruel mistress, and you can't have both. You can't have a massive heavy head and massive heavy arms, because you'd probably tip over like an idiot. You would be face planting into the mud every single time you took a step. So evolution made a choice, and it said, do you want to grab things, or do you want to bite through a tank? And I mean, come on now, the answer is pretty obvious. And to be fair, their arms were actually still super jacked. They would still be able to curl about 400 pounds, which is about 20 times more than I can do. Anyways, the arms shrank and the head grew, and the neck muscles became thick enough to lift a cow. They became walking, massive mouths. By the late Cretaceous, we start getting into the heavy hitters. The Daspletosaurus, the Albertosaurus. These guys are becoming tanks. They're 30 feet long, they're agile for their size, and they have teeth that aren't just sharp, but they are thick. See, most carnivorous dinosaurs, like the raptors or the allosaurs, they had teeth like steak knives. Thin, serrated, designed for slicing meat. If they bit a bone, their teeth would snap. But the Tyrannosaurs developed teeth that looked like lethal bananas. They were round, thick, and serrated. They weren't designed to slice, they were designed to crush. They actually practiced osteophagy, which is eating bone. When a T-Rex ate you, it didn't pick around the ribs, it ate the ribs whole. And finally, about 68 million years ago, we arrive at the final product, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is it. This is the culmination of 100 million years of being a loser, surviving, adapting, and getting swole. So let's look at the stats because pop culture has lied to you about this animal. The first lie they told you is it can't see you if you don't move. This is the worst possible advice in cinema history. If you stood still in front of a T-Rex, you were just a convenient stationary snack. The T-Rex literally had binocular vision better than a modern hawk. Its eyes were the size of softballs, and they faced forward. It could see a moving object from 6 kilometers away. It could see a stationary object just fine, and if you stand still in front of it like a dumbass, you're gonna die. The second lie it told you is that it's a mindless brute. Dumb. CT scans of T-Rex skulls show massive olfactory bulbs, the part of the brain used for smell. This thing was basically a nose with legs. It could smell a carcass from miles away. And it also had a massive brain for a reptile. It wasn't doing calculus, but it was probably smarter than your dog. And it could coordinate. It could strategize. It might have even been able to hunt in packs, which is a terrifying thought but debated. Imagine not just one of these things, but a group of them coming at you. Lie number 3 is that it could run 40 miles an hour. So this one's a lie in the other direction. A full-grown T-Rex probably couldn't run in the way we think. It was too heavy. If it ran at 40 miles per hour and tripped, the impact would shatter its ribs and kill it. But it didn't need to run, it just needed to power walk. And a T-Rex power walking is still moving at like 15 to 20 miles an hour. It has endurance. Humans are good distance runners, but you can't outrun a T-Rex stride for stride. It's like the Michael Myers of the animal kingdom. It doesn't sprint, it just terrifyingly walks behind you and inevitably catches you while you're fumbling for your car keys. So here we are in the late Cretaceous. The T-Rex is the apex of the apex. It has no natural predators. It eats armored tanks like Triceratops and walking fortresses like Ankylosaurus for breakfast. It has achieved total victory. The rat chicken from the Triassic has won the game of life. And this is the funniest or most tragic part of the story. You probably know what's coming. The T-Rex reigned for about 2 million years, which in geological time is like a blink of an eye. And after 100 million years of struggle to get to the top, the T-Rex finally sat on the throne, and almost immediately a rock the size of Manhattan slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula. It hit with the force of 100 million nuclear bombs. It vaporized the crust. It sent a wall of earth into space, which then rained back down as molten glass, and it set the entire atmosphere on fire. So the T-Rex, for all of its strength, for all of its crushing bite force and binocular vision, didn't stand a chance. The very things that made it a king, its size, its massive calorie requirements, its specializations, were the things that ended up killing it in the end. And do you know who survived? The little small things, where the T-Rex started, the scavengers, the ones that could hide in holes and eat trash, the ones who looked a lot like the T-Rex ancestors did back in the Triassic. It's poetic, really. The cycle closed. The T-Rex is a cautionary tale. It tells us that you can do everything right. You can optimize your build. You can crush your enemies. You can become the undisputed king of the world. And the universe can still just decide to throw a rock at your head and end you.